Hi guys, welcome to this week's episode. I hope you've had a really good week. I've been up to loads of different things, but this week I want to talk to you about something that's really important. Stay tuned. I've spoken to you on various occasions about what I've been up to this year, and it's really important for me to actually give you the inner workings of those things. I told you that I was songwriting and in the studio quite a bit. I told you that I was starting the panto in the end of November, so that's been something I've been prepping for. But what I wanted to talk about, which I think is a bit of a grey area, is about songwriting and collaborations. A lot of the stuff that I've been doing over the last few months have been teaming up with other producers and other songwriters in order to collaborate on projects. But I think it's really important to discuss the relationship between people that you work with, because it can often be a bit of a grey area. What I mean by that is that when you write a song, initially there is no money involved, so nobody's making any money up front. However, obviously once the song comes out, or if the song is actually used for anything that would involve making money, you then have to discuss song splits. Now, what that means is if you're co-writing with someone, you want to divide how much of the song production or the publishing that you're going to give to another person, or how much you are entitled to based on how much work you do on the song. Now, some people decide up front that we're going to just do everything 50-50. So you get half of the profits, I get half of the profits, and there's no discussion about how much work is involved. A lot of the time when the song is written, depending on who has contributed the most or the least, then the splits are done that way. It could also be to do with whoever's contributed the most financially, i.e. have you travelled from a far location? Are you using somebody's studio? Are they the ones who have prepped the song beforehand, i.e. have they put music to the song that you're going to sing and you're just literally writing lyrics? There are so many great areas in regards to who does what and who should be remunerated in what kind of percentage. Now, the reason why I think it's important about discussing this is that there have been so many occasions where songwriters have gotten into disputes after a song is released that then is hard to fix when you're at that stage. So I think it's really important that this kind of topic is discussed very early on in the process. Now, there have been many arguments about it. There's been many fallouts, people who have, shelved amazing projects because they haven't been able to come to an agreement about who should get what. But I think me as a songwriter, now having discovered that this is a thing, it's important to understand that that's something you have to be bold enough to talk about in the very early stages. Now, the reason why I say that is because I initially had no idea about how it was all worked out. Now, there are no hard and fast rules, i.e. when you're going in, it's something that you both have to decide together. I mean, you could be working with 10 people for argument's sake. Now, if you're going to divide that between 10 people equally, that's entirely up to you. But you do have to come to an arrangement that you're all happy with, that you all sign paperwork. Now, everybody who I've spoken to have said that it's really difficult unless you have a lawyer involved. And often when you're working on these smaller projects, it's not necessary for a lawyer, especially if you're new to the game, or if it's smaller level stuff where, the disputes don't rack up or amount to thousands and thousands or even millions of pounds. So for me, because I'm writing and it's very early days, it's very low level stuff, it's not necessary for me to go into the whole lawyer route at this stage. However, I'm very aware that the more you do it and the higher up you go in this process is the more prepared you have to be in order to make sure that you're not burned or you're not taken advantage of, and also that the work is fairly distributed according to who does what. I always say that getting business done is something that you should do very early on in the process, not just because it needs to be done, but it also gives you some sort of comfort knowing that you've taken care of everything and now you can just focus on being creative. It's difficult, I will say that, because it's like, well, how much do you split? How is it, maybe you're working with someone who's a little bit more experienced than you, do you take less because of that? But then you could say my creativity is a lot better than theirs, whatever that means. Do I take more because of that? What I will say is that you do need to establish that from the very early stages of the process, because what you don't want is having this ambiguity about whether you should or shouldn't talk about it. Absolutely talk about it. If it becomes a problem and it kind of destroys your working relationship, that's not a good sign. It's often a sign of bad taste or bad intentions when somebody who you're working with doesn't want to discuss business. Oh, we're friends. Oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything. It absolutely does mean something, and I really do think that you should discuss it very early on the process so that you can focus on being creative and producing good stuff. Now, this goes across the board. This is not just for music. This is about everything that you do creatively. When you work and collaborate with other people, it has to be established what you guys are working for. Are you working for credits? Are you working for money? What is the goal for the project? And the reason why I discuss this, and it's important for me to share it because I'm also on this journey. I was a little bit afraid when I was working with some people, because they are obviously well established, much more established than me, about asking about money or asking about splits. And I was a little bit afraid, so I didn't do it. And I didn't do it, but I wish I did. In those cases, it wasn't so big of a deal because nothing has become of it as yet. If it does become of it, I now have the problem of having to go back and negotiate what we're split, how it's going to be split. And it's easier to do it before the fact than after. So I say all of that to say, do not be afraid about discussing business very early on in the process, firstly. 2, don't neglect it. Don't ignore it. It's something that needs to be discussed. You decide what you want out of this process. Do you want to get a 50-50 split? Do you want to make sure that you want credits, i.e. producers credits? Do you want to have the project put out by somebody that you don't mind if you don't get any money or any credit out of it? You just want the exposure, you just want the experience. This is something that you should really think about in the very beginning. And now that I have understood that, because some very important people in my life have shared how it all works with me, I'm very now keen to make sure that everything that I do after now, in terms of writing and creating, that I discuss that up front. Too many people have been burned. Too many people have not involved themselves in this process. And then as a result, either they don't know how to do business or somebody takes credit for their work, which is never good. So guys, hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with all the videos we post. As I said, I'm going to be doing lots of songwriting, lots of studio work over the next few months. I'm in the studio with an amazing artist called Freya Ridings, who's currently recording her album, and it's absolutely fantastic. I can say that from hearing all the stuff that she's doing. Also, there is another artist who is in the pipeline with an album. I won't say his name because I don't want to expose any of the secrets, insider secrets. But again, I've been working a lot with him to make sure that his next album is dope. So get at us on social media. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Snapchat, we're on Google+, and we're on Twitter. So make sure you get at us there. All that remains for me to say is, guys, do the business first, enjoy the profits later.